Good morning, good evening, good afternoon. Welcome aboard the Max Afterburner podcast, sponsored, powered, brought to you by the No Fallen Heroes Foundation Project. Man, I have an incredible guest today. It's a God, well, I guess every moment's a God moment, but bigger God moment right now because I want to debrief you all real quick before I introduce my guest, because this is a God moment, because I need this guest to help me, to help veterans, to help technically all of us after what I did this week. So, quick debrief. Flew up to D.C., walked literally the halls of Congress, man, like got my steps in my cowboy boots. I wore my flight suit this time, my No Fallen Heroes Foundation flight suit, because last time I was up there, I saw all the VFW guys or the American Legion guys wearing their hats and their jackets. I'm like, you know what, man? I'm throwing the flight suit on, a little bit of a billboard. I met with mostly Republican lawmakers and a couple Democrats as well to brief them on these healing medicines, my healing journey, the healing journeys that we're providing for veterans and first responders and their families with the No Fallen Heroes Foundation. And man, well, a couple things. I was blown away and then dejected, blown away. So maybe it'll level off on it's good, just like Susie says on it's fine, it's always fine, right? And I shit you negative, I got out of the Uber the first morning to get ready to walk into the Rayburn building, and I went left to left with a two-star Ukrainian general. Two-star Ukrainian general. I went left to left with that guy, and I thought that was a pretty interesting moment there because our government is sending tens of billions of dollars to turn people on the other side of the planet into hair, teeth, and eyeballs. And I guarantee you that dude left with some money and a promise of probably more money. And I'm trying to get a congressional hearing to maybe sort of think about helping our veterans. I'm not going to mention the lawmaker's name because it's the mindset, right? And I brought that up in one of the meetings with a lawmaker, and the dude was like, "Hey, that might play out there, but here you want to avoid that type of stuff." I'm like, "The fuck you talking about, dude?" He's like, "It's national security appropriations. It's different pot of money." I'm like, "Hey, man, we the people look at it as one fucking pot of money, man. For the price of 10 Abrams tanks that you're sending to Ukraine, you could maybe heal and save the lives of tens of thousands of veterans." So it was interesting. Got into a little bit of a dogfight, but I guess it's what you got to do. But yesterday morning or afternoon was fantastic. Met with Morgan Luttrell, Congressman Morgan Luttrell. Obviously, you all know that I did the medicine the first time with his brother, Marcus Luttrell, the lone survivor, and just what a great dude. I met Congressman Zinke in the morning. He was a commander, also a Navy SEAL. I reached my limit of, I can only deal with 2 SEALs in a day as a Navy fighter pilot. So I reached my SEAL quota, but I got to tell you, good news, good, some airspeed on the jet. And Morgan Luttrell is picking up the flag and running with this because he also sat with Ibogaine and 5-MeO, and he and I were laughing and shooting the shit. He's like, "Dude, sounds like, my brother told me you and I had the same experience, man. Exorcism in a good way." So goodish news, okay? Hearings. I think I'm going to manifest, or we're manifesting in Morgan, and Congresswoman Kay Granger. I flew Hornets in her district in Fort Worth. Powerful lady on the chair of the Appropriations Committee. Think she's going to have some hearings. Step 1. Step 2, sprinkling money, hopefully to the VA. Step 3, funding, all sorts of stuff. But my guest today, folks, you're going to be blown away with probably. I'm Mr. Worldwide. I've been around the world a couple times. This guy is, without a doubt, one of the smartest, brilliant comes to mind. So you're about to meet Albert Einstein and Mother Teresa if they ran into each other really fast. Because this dude, he's brilliant, but he's also, he's a saint. And I don't say that lightly. Troy Valencia. He's an initiate into the Bwiti tradition of Central Africa, Gabon. And for regular listeners or viewers, or if you're familiar with the No Fallen Heroes Foundation, our Director of Medicine Operations, Our little blonde Nicole traveled to Gabon as well and got put through the ringer like Troy did. And he's also and it's so funny, bro, because I woke up, got my shower after my hot yoga this morning, and the first T-shirt when I opened the drawer was this one. So this is I'm not doing this for you. This is Bonzi. But he's an Iboga provider down at Awaken Your Soul. We've done a couple retreats. And the last retreat, he was the commanding officer, more or less, and serving the medicine. But he's currently a doctoral student at California Southern University, pursuing a doctorate in clinical psychology, strong educational background, an undergrad in biology and chemistry. Right? Underachiever here. And a dual master's in analytical chemistry and East-West psychology from the Cal Institute of Integral Studies up there in San Fran. He's the founder of Authentic Empowerment LLC. It's a spiritual coaching platform designed to provide integration coaching support for those on the journey of awakening, which is critical, folks. Whether it's Troy or other folks I've worked with in the space, it's 595. 5%'s the medicine, 95%'s the integration, man. What you do with your clean piece of paper is up to you. And you can follow him on Instagram, the Soul Integrator. Troy, my brother, welcome. It is great to see you.
It's beautiful to see you too, boss man. I really appreciate your time and the kind words. And I also just want to first start by saying thank you for everything you're doing. The intro you had today always puts it in perspective of the mission you're on. It's nothing, no small undertaking. And I know you're focused on vets, but beneath the veteran status is a person, and beneath the person is a soul. Correct. And so you're changing people at the level of the soul, and that's a very, very powerful thing. So thank you for being the part of Mother Teresa as well.
I appreciate that, bro. I don't have a choice, right? The medicine, and just about every veteran or first responder or family member that I see heal from the medicine, they feel they have to give back. They have to put the ladder down. It's like you got this incredible gift and you're like, now I got to do something with it. So I appreciate that, bro. Exactly. It ain't me. It's spirit. It's God, whatever word you want to use. But I need your help. This is why this podcast today is incredible, because you're the guy, man. And we're going to look back either on this podcast or the work you're doing, bro, because as you and I have talked around a fire and really digging into this stuff, there's a bridge, man. On one side of the bridge is me talking to lawmakers going, I got my ass kicked. It was a beautiful ass kicking for 12 hours. My dad, my sister, everything fixed. And they're like, yeah, that's great. But the other side of the bridge are the beakers, the lab coats, the Excel sheets, the studies. And what's in the middle, man? I believe God's in the middle, but I need your help, because these congressmen are great, because they're like, dude, look at you. You're great. Morgan Luttrell did the medicine, but he's like, we need the data. Can you give us just kind of your 50, 100,000 foot view of next time we're up, hopefully we have those hearings. Is this part of the bridge ever going to meet this one, and where are we?
Yeah. So it's a beautiful question to ask. And I think what I would say is the primary hurdle or obstacle, which I've seen, is that if you were to look at a graph and Google all the countries that have the most in opiate sales, okay, USA would be one of the top countries, and it would start to fall down. You'd see countries like Portugal and Costa Rica at the opposite end of the spectrum. Now, if you were to also Google a graph of the countries where Iboga or Ibogaine is legal, you would see a direct inverse correlation. And so what you're seeing there is you're talking about a direct competition with the pharmaceutical industry. And as someone who was once a chemist for that industry, I can tell you that money is the driving factor. I know products specifically that were non-opiate pain relievers for post-surgical that were established and approved, that were shelved.
No way.
Simply because it would compete with the opiate market. And there's some that got out. There's one brand called Exparcel from a company called Pacera Pharmaceuticals that's out there, but it's still hush hush. Why would you not be giving that to everybody?
Wow. Oh my God, bro.
And so the real issue is that you're dealing with the lobbyists, the pharmaceutical lobbyists, and they have their claws into everything.
How are you fixing that? Because when I've picked your brain sitting right where you are down in Costa Rica, you're doing the work, bro. You are putting in the science. But before we get to where you are currently today, walk everybody through I was that guy. I had a nice job. I was putting in the money, having a good time. How'd you end up sitting and going to Gabon and sitting in at Awaken Your Soul right now? Go from chemist, working stiff, to you today.
Yeah. I found a passion for chemistry in undergrad. I tore my ACL, lost basketball, and I had an experience where I actually experienced photosynthesis occurring, which was outside of my realm at the time, and that inspired me. So I got a degree in biology, second in chemistry. After college, I went to graduate school for analytical chemistry. Worked in the field of vibrational spectroscopy for years, making a whole bunch of money doing sales. Obviously, I have a nice personality to throw around with the technical side, so it was very easy for me. And I was miserable underside. I had upwards of 200K in my early 20s, living downtown San Diego, partying, doing it all. And I was completely hollow on the inside. Mm-hmm. And while up in Oregon one time, I was catching a sunset. I met this really amazing woman and we just started chatting, and I was trying to ask her on a date, to be completely honest with you. Yeah. And she said, I'm dating someone. And I was in my head, I'm like, well, this guy's not better than me, right? The arrogance, the ego. And she said, well, I really, there's something about him that's different. When I first met him, he walked into the room and everyone could feel his energy. And what I said to her was, okay, my job is to put energy into things and to measure the diffusion, the reflectance, or the transmission. That doesn't happen with people. So what are you talking about? And she said, I don't know. All I know is he went into this stuff called ayahuasca, and that's all he told me. So I called the place she told me about. Very arrogant. I jumped on the phone. I was like, look, man, I don't want to hear the whole spiel. I just want to know what ayahuasca is. And the guy said to me, I could tell you, but it'd be like trying to describe the color red to a blind man. So why don't you just come see for yourself? And that got my curiosity. I booked the flight out. I went, and my entire life shifted through Aya. And then about 6 months after that, I was at home, seeing a whole new world, feeling the wind, feeling my heartbeat, understanding the emotions, who I had become in this life, all the people I've heard, all the games I've played. And I received the text messages from a woman. And she said, hey, Troy, I know you don't remember me, but I was at the same ayahuasca retreat you were on. I'm friends with so-and-so. I went to this place called Awaken Your Soul in Costa Rica. And when I sat with Iboga, I saw you in my vision. I just felt like I should tell you. Wow. So I followed the signs. I came out here. And as soon as I ingested the medicine, I saw myself in Africa with the owner of the retreat, Anthony, and knew exactly what my mission was in this life.
Wow. And then you proceeded you went to Gabon and got initiated into a tribe.
Yep, I got initiated, planning on going back again very soon to do another initiation. There's different layers of these initiations, and there's one called the Dasumba, which is very much speaking to me. It's going to take me a few years, a few more initiations to get there, but at some point I'd like to be initiated into the Dasumba tradition, if I'm allowed, of course, to the work. But that's the goal right there.
Wow, that's incredible. Now let's tie it back together. Let's tie back the spiritual with the math, the science, because it really is hard to explain to people. Lying on my back, Costa Rica, and the experience from a root bark or a plant. As you know, here in the United States, we went to psychedelic science last month in Denver. A couple years ago, it was a couple thousand people in Rick Doblin. This year it was 13,000 people. Aaron Rodgers, Republican governors, veterans, other athletes, hippies, you name it, man. You feel it coming, right? So at least here in the United States, MDMA, looking at phase 3 trials are done. The paperwork is all being written to give to the FDA, and it seems like by Q1, Q2 of next year, rescheduled, and then back to therapeutic use. So MDMA's first, right? And I clearly I've experienced it. Great heart opener and stuff like that. Half of me, dude in a lab coat type of thing. I like the plant medicines. You know how I feel, man. God, everything that man, woman needs to heal has already been put on this place. So I'm cool with the MDMA, and because especially with the veteran studies, man, it's 68. Now I know the facts because I walked around with an active duty police officer the past couple days, and then a former Marine, Juliana Mercer, who's like 68% of the veterans who have PTSD have zero after the I mean, not like 10, 20, it's down to zero, right? So this is a good first step. But help me out with whether it's psilocybin or Ibogaine or Iboga. Can you talk us through the neurochemistry of how Whiz can lie on his back, experience oneness with everything, so I can tell congressmen that I'm not crazy?
Yeah. And this is actually what the emphasis of my doctoral program is, my dissertation topic. So
perfect.
if you think of when you fall asleep at night, right? So you fall asleep at night and you have this dream, okay? Something called the activity of the mind creates this framework, which you think is real in the dream. And yet you are a point of perception within this framework. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then all of a sudden you wake up in the morning. Your heart might be racing, you might be sweating, your body didn't know the difference, but you wake up and you say, oh, it was just a dream, or I had a dream, which means it was inside of you.
Yeah.
Which already, certain traditions believe that you have multiple souls, and the soul is what's dreaming, and you're tapping into that. So that's a whole nother realm, but you wake up. Now you wake up, and again, something, we can call this a universal intelligence, God, creator, whatever you want to say, is creating a framework again. Mm-hmm. And again, you are a point of perception within this framework. Mm-hmm. Well, in an Iboga journey, in a psilocybin journey with some of these plant medicines, what I believe is actually happening is, again, you are just moving to another level. Mm-hmm. Where again, Iboga is creating a framework. And again, you are this point of perception inside of that framework. And the only difference between these levels is there's different capacities available to you within each of these realms. There's different things you can do. It's why Iboga specifically is known as the visionary root of African shamanism. And if you study the works of someone like C. Michael Smith, who's a medical anthropologist and a Jungian analyst, he wrote a book called Jung and Shamanism in Dialogue. And he drew a correlation between different wisdom traditions, shamanic traditions, and the work of Carl Jung specifically. And what he says is that the one thing that separates each shaman is the framework in which they navigate, right? So a shaman from the Bwiti will have a different framework than a Peruvian maestro, for example. But it's still the same thing they're doing. They're navigating in some type of framework. And Iboga essentially puts you in your own framework based off your own experiences, your own life, your own cellular memory, the memories of your soul. All of that comes together and creates a framework for yourself.
Wow. So I remember my first Ibogaine journey, like halfway through it. And people, I always have to remind people, you're wide awake. This is not, people are like, oh, I'm hallucinating or I'm tripping or seeing shit. I'm like, no, man. I'd lift my eye shades. There's the nurses. There's my brother. There's Marcus lying next to me. All right, eye shade back on. And the movie, it literally, I felt like I was in a movie theater, sitting next to God and looking at everything. I remember going, wow, the production values in this thing are just incredible, man. Look at the detail. It was just absolutely incredible. So inside this framework, you're allowed to look at things. Like you said, there's a couple, well, there's me as a kid, but I'm me watching me sit next to God in this movie theater. It allowed me to look at things, especially traumatic things, from a different point of view, and it allowed me to feel different about them.
Yeah.
So let's talk through some of the neurochemistry, because when I talk like this to a congressman who doesn't, oh, it's weed and that was the other thing, a couple of congressmen were like, oh, the cannabis. I'm like, dude, this is not recreational, man. You're not taking Iboga and going out in the club in Miami, dude. You're not going anywhere. And they're like, oh, okay. So, I had to do some recreational dog fighting. But let's get in, when I get into this type of stuff, the addiction or the neuroplasticity. When I share a Navy SEAL with a brain scan from the VA that's dark and gray and black, and 3 months after Ibogaine, it's white. That perks them up. So address that, but also after that, addiction. How come, bro, as a drinker and a shitty drinker at that, after Ibogaine and Iboga, looking at alcohol made me sick. So attack both those things. Help us out with the brain, how it's helping damage CTE or TBI, and then also addiction.
Yeah. So Iboga and Ibogaine obviously are different, right? So Iboga is the tree bark from the Tabernacle Iboga tree. Within that tree bark, there's a set of alkaloids. Alkaloids are simply nitrogen-containing compounds found in nature. Yeah. And so there's a set of alkaloids. Ibogaine is one extracted alkaloid, the primary one most people use, which I believe you worked with Ibogaine specifically. Yeah. Ibogaine is known for its anti-addictive properties. There's tabernathiamine, there's voconganine, ibogainamine, harmaline. There's many of them. An example of tabernathiamine is there's a study where they took these rats that they taught to self-administer themselves cocaine. And they injected these rats with tabernathine. And what they found was that the rats who were injected reduced the amount of cocaine they administered to themselves across the board.
Whoa.
Right? Ibogainamine is an anticonvulsant. Vocanine is an MAOI. I mean, there's tons of stuff in there that are just incredibly beneficial.
Good.
So good, right? So what's actually happening? There's something called the GDNF protein. This is a glial cell line derived neurotropic factor. Okay. It's the GDNF is the acronym. And so when you are between the ages of 0 and 3 years old, the way that your brain is actually developing is through the use of these proteins. You can think of it like having a construction site, right? And you're building a building. There's a plan for the building. Yeah. The GDNF proteins are the little construction workers who are showing up to work every day. And so why between this age, it makes sense. You're learning how to walk, how to talk, how to speak, how to communicate, what your needs are, who's safe, what's not safe, everything. You learn so much that we take for granted at this very young age. So as your brain develops around the age of 3, this GDNF number starts to taper off for the rest of your life. It's actually at an all-time high at the age of 3. Well, when you take Ibogaine in these flood doses, these large amounts, you actually find that this GDNF score is at an all-time high, and that's accounting weight for weight. And so what is that really saying? What that's saying is you're in a place of neuroplasticity. You're actually repairing, you're rebuilding, you're restructuring these neurons. There's this axiom that Joe Dispenza talks about. He says, neurons that fire together wire together. So what that really means is, for someone like myself who grew up in the foster system, I didn't believe that making relationships were safe because my neurons that fire together and wire together told me that the person coming into my house, this child who I'm going to be friends with, is going to leave in 4 to 6 months. And then I'm going to be hurt. So I don't make connections. So that was a neurological pathway that I established. Well, when you get these GDNF proteins, what happens is these pathways can actually be restructured and rebuilt. So you're talking about new belief systems, new patterns, new habits, anti-addictive properties.
Wow.
And so in terms of the neuroplasticity, that's really the magic behind this. And when you couple that with integration, like you said before, you're talking about a recipe for change. Dr. Joe Dispenza has a book called Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself. This is the plant. This is the plant manifestation of that book. What he's teaching in the book, this plant actually does for you. And when I work with people as integration, I actually send them that book and say, hey, work with this book and you will honestly see results very, 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 very fast. In terms of the anti-addictive, I believe that was the next layer. Yeah, I mean, out of the 10 most addictive substances in the US, which I don't remember the list of them, but I know that Iboga binds to 6 of those 10 receptors. So just think about that. You're talking about this multiple range, this full spectrum product that's able to bind to the 5-HT2A receptor like psilocybin does, the mu and kappa opioid receptors, the sigma receptors, what else? Dopamine receptors. I mean, it's literally binding across your brain. And so you're talking about a full spectrum healing product here.
Wow.
That has infinite capabilities.
Unbelievable. So it makes sense to have that, first of all, to see it in the brain scan. We're going to start doing this going forward. I'm talking to Nicole, and we want to get brain scans of our veterans before and after. It just makes sense, right? But it makes sense hearing all of that it sounds like it brings your brain back to that childlike state, to the under construction, and allows you to have that clean piece of paper. And thank God, Troy, you didn't know old Whiz, but I would have kicked my ass years ago if I ever heard me use this sentence. I felt born again. When I came back from the medicine, it was a clean piece of paper. And everything was new. It was in a childlike state. Absolute gift. Like I said, the alcohol was gone, and you've met Susie. It can be a little challenge during the integration because you do come back kind of you're not a different person. You're the same person with a little bit of with some rust knocked off, right? But it can be challenging for those at home to experience a new you, right? And obviously Susie went and sat with the medicine as well, which was great.
Yeah.
So let's dig into. So we covered some of the brain rewiring and the addiction interrupting capability. I got an email, another God moment, because maybe you can attack this with me, because I'm starting to hear from some older folks. How about Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, dementia? Is there any promise along those lines with Ibogaine, or any of the plant medicines?
Absolutely, absolutely. And I just want to speak to something you mentioned about this childlike essence quickly. So when you go to Gabon, if you were to go and get initiated, they would call you Bonzi. They'd say Bonzi, Bonzi, Bonzi. And Bonzi means baby. And if you think about what that means, there's a wisdom there, right? They understand that this medicine is taking you back to this childlike state. Mm. And it also, I think it's Matthew 18:3 in the Bible. It says, truly, I tell you, in order to enter the gate of heaven, you must be like that of a child. Mm. And so there's something there to that, right? Of this childlike essence. That's why whenever Luna, as you know, you've met Anthony and Amber, the owner of Awaken Your Soul, their daughter Luna, when she's around, I always tell our guests, if you want to be enlightened, you watch that little girl. Mm. There's a reason why it says that in the Bible. There's a reason why many traditions are very playful. Especially these shamanic traditions where the elders, like a kid, you see them dancing around, skipping. It's a very playful energy. So I just wanted to name that. Absolutely, absolutely correct.
I love it.
Yeah, and then speaking to your question exactly, is there a certain way you want me to approach this? Or?
No, well, it's just because I Googled it the other day, because I got an email from, because some of the Vietnam veterans are starting to eat, they're getting up there, and it's like, hey, Whiz, it sounds like this stuff does magic for your brain. Anything with Alzheimer's or Parkinson's or any of the neurological stuff, I'm like, I will find out on Friday. But at least when I Googled it, it says, hey, man, Ibogaine or Iboga can be the rewiring type of thing. I was just wondering if you had heard anything.
Yeah, absolutely. So these GDNF proteins, along with these BDNF proteins, which are just brain-derived neurotropic factors. When you're talking about these degenerative diseases that affect, like in Alzheimer's, like these protein buildup in the brain, you're talking about a cleansing of this system, of the brain system. Mm-hmm. And so, yes, there are results. There is data out there. There's publications and reports. There's a woman named Deborah Marsh from the University of Miami who's done extensive research. You can find tons of papers, scholarly articles out there about the effects on Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, anything you're talking about that's neurological. This is medicine is working on. You're literally repairing the nerves, the neurological system in the brain, throughout the body. If you were to take a massive flood dose like they would give you in Gabon, you would have the shakes. And the reason you're shaking is because it's touching the neuromuscular junctions. It's getting down to the very tip aspect of who you are as a person. Mm. And when you're talking about these diseases that have degenerative effects down there, there's going to be healing. There's not enough long-term studies, of course. But you can find tons and tons of research out there that advocate for its benefits.
I love this, man. This is all of this makes my heart smile. It's really interesting because, again, talking to lawmakers, they're like, because I'll sing all the praises, and they're like, all right, lay it on me. What's all the downside and the bad? And I'm like, oh, shit. I had to rack my brains. I'm like, knock on wood, the folks we've helped at the No Fallen Heroes Foundation, we haven't had one adverse anything, any bad quote unquote trip. So knock on wood, there's been nothing. The only thing I could come up with was Iboga or Ibogaine, or especially Ibogaine, but you can speak to it, is known to lower your heart a little bit. So I know, like the Mission Within and Doc Martin, they'd like to do some EKG, or you guys do EKGs too. To anybody sitting here going, holy shit, this sounds fantastic. What's the downside? What are the risks? What's the break glass in case of emergency? Have you seen it, or does anything keep you up at night with this stuff? Or
Yeah. So biologically speaking, the primary risk is a prolonged QT. So if you look at an EKG, there's the heartbeat, the flat line, and then the heartbeat. Working with Ibogaine Iboga can extend that.
The in-between.
Okay. And so in the in-between, if someone has a pre-existing heart condition, they could, in theory, find cardiac arrest. Okay. Which is why any responsible place is doing an EKG, having it checked by doctors. But we've served people who are in their 80s. We've turned people away who have issues with EKGs as well. And so that's really one of the cold stopping points. The next one is your liver. Because Iboga is metabolized primarily in the liver, a liver panel test is very important, especially if you're someone who abused alcohol or has a history of liver conditions in your family.
Good point.
Those are two big ones to look out for. After that, I would say the biggest risk, the biggest downside is your entire life is going to shift. And so some people truly aren't prepared to handle that when they return home. And so what I would say is, just make sure you're prepared and you're ready to embrace these changes, because things around you are going to shift. When you come home, the people around you are going to notice your difference. You're not going to resonate with the same music. Probably you're not going to resonate with the same people. Yeah. Your career, like myself, I love my job, but I was like, wow, I need to be helping people. I need to spend my days helping people. I can't just be making money. It doesn't make sense anymore. And so maybe I would say, other than the biological side, the biggest downside is it's not really a downside, but it's just a challenge. Is you have to be willing to accept what's coming from this work. I mean, you're understanding that this is an ancient medicine. I mean, the Babongo people who were the first to find this medicine are from deep in Africa. I mean, you're talking about people when you meet them, you look into their eyes and there's a sense of wisdom and history, just earthliness to them. Yeah. And even the people I've met on the villages, I mean, when you see their physical structure, you're like, are these guys fucking Division I linebackers? Like, what is going on here? And so just understanding too that you're bringing into your essence the spirit, and it connects you to the ancestor realm, right? For the indigenous people of Gabon and Central Africa, Iboga is a tool to connect with the ancestor realm. And so you are actually going to connect with that side. And so it's going to open you up in ways. You're going to cross the threshold of your own mind, and that's going to open you to expansive new realities, and being prepared for that and open to that is a very big obstacle for a lot of people.
Wow. It's so interesting because it's a benefit, but it can be a downside. So folks, I will speak for Troy because he does this for a living. We cannot understate enough the integration. You are getting a clean piece of paper, which is a gift, but what you do with that, you are the pilot in command, man. So why don't you talk us through what you do? Why don't we do that? Give us what to expect, right? I'm going to do the medicine with Troy. Talk us through, a typical experience, and then they get on an airplane home. How do you help them integrate? So talk for people who are like, dude, this guy's awesome. I want to do the medicine with Troy. Give us A to Z.
Yeah. So it will start with your inquiry, of course. And then once you agree to work with the medicine, you're going to notice it's going to start working. Right. I think there was an experiment
that happened to me, man. The second. So two ridiculous phrases that old Whiz would have given himself a wedgie saying, the medicine calls to you. And when you agree to do the medicine, things change. I thought there was ridiculous statements. I did the medicine. I'm like, those two statements are fact. So thank you for saying that, because once I said, you know what, I'm going to do this shit. I don't know if there's neurochemistry or if that's God, but I noticed, maybe it's just noticing things like differently, but I'm so glad you said that, bro. So didn't want to interrupt, but that's a moment for me because I thought it was bullshit and it's truth. Basi.
Well, quantum physics, there's actually an experiment just released. You can Google this. So they took a light photon All right. They put in a chamber and they separated the single light photon into two. And they brought it into two separate chambers, 7 miles apart, each chamber. So a total of 14 miles distance.
Mm-hmm.
They put an effect on the light photon over here, and the light photon over here acted exactly the same.
Whoa.
And so what we're talking about is this idea of non-duality actually starting to be proven on the quantum level. And so when you do agree to Iboga, technically you've already ingested it.
Yes.
Right. And we've proven that through quantum physics. That's why I love this scientific approach, because I don't have the most faith in the world. I am someone who believes experience transcends faith. I have faith in things that I know that I'm probably not going to experience. I'm okay saying, okay, sure, here we go. But experience transcends faith to me. And then when these experiments like this in quantum physics, the observer effect come out, it makes it a little bit more real. And so, yes, the second you agree, things start happening inside of you for sure. You arrive to this retreat, you'll probably be asked if the place is doing their homework. They'll have you do the EKG. I have people do a liver flush specifically to help prepare the liver for the process as well. No real diet, just trying to reduce any alcohol, getting off certain substances, pharmaceuticals specifically, you have to be off of. And then you'll arrive to the space, you'll ingest the medicine. Most places will do 2 ceremonies in a week. Why 2? Because 1 isn't really enough, and 3 is too many, is really the answer there.
I like that.
So yeah, you'll have your experience. It will go anywhere between 8 to 24 hours, depending on your level of resistance. Typically, when people are more open to receiving the teachings, it happens and the medicine moves through you. If you're resistant, if you're holding on, excuse me, you'll see they'll be in the process a little longer. This is why in Michael Pollan's book, How to Change Your Mind, when he talks about set and setting is so important, right? If you aren't in an environment where the people holding space are genuinely there for you for the service, where the providers aren't doing their own inner work, their own continued healing, their own growth, you set yourself up to be in a position where you require someone to hold you or to be there for you who's not really capable of holding that space.
True.
Or the containers are not safe. And if you're in a long process, there's no other worse place to be in the world than somewhere where you don't feel safe.
Correct.
So settings, everything. After you finish your 2 ceremonies, you are going to have about a 90-day window where this neuroplasticity is really setting in. And in that time, what I tell people is there's 5 things on the surface I say to look at. One is, what are you eating, right? What you eat, you become. I think Sadhguru says when you eat a banana, you don't become a banana, the banana becomes you, right? So what are you building into the structure of your temple? So what are you eating? The second one is, what are you watching? Your brain is in a state of brand new neuroplasticity. So it's a sponge.
Yeah.
It's wide open to teach it whatever you want. What are you filtering through your brain, through your eyes? The third one is, what are you listening to? Right? Like, what podcasts are you listening to? Are you listening to something that's just gossip, talking bad about people, slander? Like myself, before I was listening to rap music, which if you listen to the lyrics, it's all degrading women.
Yeah.
It's very depressing stuff. I haven't listened to rap since I started. I literally cut it out.
Yep.
So we have, what are you listening to? What are you watching? What are you feeding yourself? How are you speaking? Right? Our words are wisdom and magic. So are we speaking harsh words to ourselves, to others, or are we speaking kind and soft and compassionate? What's that tone there? And the last one is, what is the circle you keep around you? Right? Who are the people you keep in your circle? If you have people around you who are drinking, abusing their partners and doing all these things, then you're going to fall into those habits. And so really what it's about coming home is taking this fresh, new, clean vessel of a brain and saying, okay, what do I want to allow into it? And how protective can I be of that? Of course, you have life, you're going to have EMFs, you're going to have work, you're going to get that shitty email. All those things are going to happen. But how protective can you be of your brain for those 90 days is really the magic time. If you can do that for those 90 days, you're going to see that your brain's going to rewire in a way that fits you perfectly. That's exactly the way you want to be. And I know that I am a testament to that. I have changed myself, just like you said, the old Whiz, the old Troy. I would have called you a jackass and never been on this show. I wouldn't even have a chance to be on the show. Exactly. I would have, because I'd have been too ignorant to even consider psychedelics or plant medicine or anything. Yeah.
I love it, man. That is so. Couple things. You said this a couple times that I've been down to Costa Rica, and it always reminds me of this. It's not a story. It's so Melanie Luttrell, Marcus Luttrell's beautiful bride. She makes the Pope look Jewish. She could not be more Catholic. I mean, she is like, she was a little leery about him doing this, right? She goes to church 3 days a week and type of thing. And Marcus came back, clean piece of paper, and she's like, wow. She eventually decided to sit with the medicine. She experienced Bufo, 5-MeO-DMT, and she said, Whiz, I lost my faith. And I'm like, oh God, no. And she picked me right back up. She's like, I have knowledge. I have wisdom. I have experience. I was like, she nailed it. I was scared for a second, but she's like, no, I don't need faith anymore. I experienced it. I'm like, boom. Every time you say that sentence, it hits me right in the heart, because it's, and I do too. You know my story, bro. I mean, I young Irish Catholic kid whose sister gets killed by a drunk driver, family's destroyed. I'm like, what type of God does that type of shit? And then I've never been more spiritual in my life. I mean, I when I was an altar boy or Catholic school, nowhere even close, because I was also taught that God's a dude, flowing robe, white beard, and vengeful, man. You cross me, I'm gonna, you'll burn for eternity. I mean, tell your kids that'll mess you up. But I love that experience transcends faith, and it's always interesting because you said it depends on how your kind of mindset with the medicine, because when I started doing this work, when I started reading the manuals, you know me, fighter pilot, I treated this stuff like a combat mission, man. I studied, I had my intentions for the medicine. I had some questions for the medicine. But a lot of the books or whatever said, well, you have to surrender. It's not a word you want to use with Navy SEALs or fighter pilots, right? So, I had to change that. I deleted that word out of the books. I put acceptance, right? Or,
Yes.
when working with veterans, maybe use a different word other than surrender. Let's talk through, we talked through some of the health issues with the heart potentially. How about, I don't know a better way to say this, mental issues or something like that. Is there some folks that, because of course, when you Google this stuff, of course, the headlines will make, hey, a guy died doing Ibogaine in Mexico 10 years ago, and everybody freaks out about it. I'm like, you can die on the way to the podcast studio. Or, well, I heard a guy take it and he was psychotic and it made him more psychotic. Is there any red lines, or how do you feel about that type of stuff? Any mental issues?
Yeah, I guess the first thing with the deaths around it, what actually happens is, because it's resetting all these receptors in your brain and bringing you back to this ground state, what actually happens is a lot of people who are abusing drugs, let's say they use, I don't know, they work at a half syringe of heroin. I really don't know how heroin works. Mm-hmm. But let's say you start with a half syringe, and then you work your way up to a full syringe at a certain point in your life. You go to an Ibogaine clinic. Well, now your threshold is back down to maybe a quarter of a syringe, but they're used to taking the full, so they take it and they overdose.
Oh, Jesus.
So a lot of the deaths you see come from that type of realm. And so I just wanted to name that.
Thank you for clearing that up, man, because I hate these urban legends. Like, I heard this. I'm like, well, let's dig into it, man. There's got to be reasons. This ain't, because this stuff has been used for thousands and thousands of years. So there's probably a little safety around it. Okay, so that answered that. I love the integration stuff, the post medicine, because again, you come back to the United States, man, you can't turn on the TV for 30 seconds without just seeing an absolute shit show. Because I did, my personal integration, the first 30 days, I'm out in the yard staring at a tree, and Susie's like, what are you doing? I'm like, look at this thing. It's beautiful, right? So you have this beautiful, like 30-day pink cloud phase or whatever you want to call it. And then the 30 to 60 was a little challenging, right? I'm like, why is that guy homeless? He's hungry. Here, let me help you. Why are we killing people on the other side of the planet? So there was and why, Susie, why aren't you happy? I mean, I'm fixed. I'm better. So there was the middle month was touch and go. And then the last, 60 to 90 days, I found my groove. So again, I don't think I can stress this enough, folks. The integration is critical. And my brother Justin Lepre from Heroic Path to Light, we were walking the halls of Congress together. He's like, if you don't have the integration, it's just an experience. It's an experience. And, you know, you went to Costa Rica and you did some medicine. It's the integration where the rubber meets the road. Do you do phone calls? How do you do, if you have like somebody who reaches out to you, what's your integration look like if you do a one-on-one with somebody?
Yeah. So I guess the first thing I'll name is I just changed my LLC into a nonprofit, and specifically because when you brought the vets out here.
Oh, thanks, bro.
I don't know if you remember, I offered your vets free integration.
You did. That's at Basi, man. I appreciate it. That was awesome. Yep.
Yeah. And after doing that, I really understood how many people are simply just priced out on it, where they spend so much money to come to these plant medicine, these retreats, and they just don't have the money. So they say, okay, well, at least I'm doing the medicine, but I'm not doing the integration. But it's like you said, there's this 5 to 95%. And so it really became to me, okay, am I doing this for the money, or am I doing this to help people? So I just want to name that it's now a not-for-profit. And so
that's awesome,
we help people. Yeah, I have a few people on board now. We all have agreed to subsidize the cost and to do it free of charge for people who need it.
So
I wanted to name that. Integration for me is, you know, a single transformative experience is great, but unless you're an active participant, it's not going to mean very much. It's going to get lost in the depths of your memory. And so integration for me is really a process of challenging the person to continue to do the work, right? That's the real thing. And it might look like certain books, right? Let's say someone specifically has something going on with an internal dialogue still, a way of speaking to themselves. Well, I might refer them to an IFS, internal family systems therapist.
Okay.
If someone is more on a spiritual side and they're like, well, you know, what am I supposed to do in this world? I might talk about a spiritual truth, like something from the Bhagavad Gita and karma yoga. So it's really just about being able to meet people exactly where they're at. That's exactly why I went to California Institute of Integral Studies to get the master's in East-West psychology, because it takes psychological thought from the Western traditions, from the Eastern traditions, and merges them at the level of the soul.
Love it.
And so it teaches you how to speak to someone in a psychological manner from a Buddhist perspective, from a Jungian perspective, from a Freudian perspective. It's why I'm in the doctoral program right now to get the clinical, so that I can actually take insurance as well and actually treat people as a psychologist, quote unquote. I won't be diagnosing a fucking damn thing, I'll promise you that. But to treat people as a psychologist. And so for me, integration is holistic as it's going to be. If you work with myself or anyone with our team, you're going to find us offering meditations. We're going to send you specific meditations, energy healing techniques you're going to do on yourself, because it's not just talking, right? You have to be able to start understanding how to work with the prana. Like even something as simple as feeling prana in your hand is a technique I do with people, and they're like, "Holy shit, this is real!
I can feel it."
There's really energy between my hands, and I'm like, there is. And now you've had an experience. Okay, now how do we build from there?
Yeah.
And so that's what integration is to me.
Dude, and before I forget, your beautiful partner, Jo, just another incredible soul. She is a saint. I did not know, and this is ignorant whiz, I didn't know when we were down there, the holotrop, the breath work. I experienced a 5-MeO DMT like experience with my breath, with no toad, with nothing but breathing. That blew me away, man.
Yeah.
That was insane.
Yeah. So it's interesting you say that. So she does a specific technique, and she's training in it right now. She's also in grad school. She wants to be a somatic therapist as well.
Yeah.
Her specific technique she does is a form called clarity breathwork that was taught to us by a woman named Sabine in Tulum. I can send you the contact. She's an amazing breath worker. She's been on our AYS integration calls. It's called clarity breathwork. But what's so interesting about that is one of the alkaloids in Iboga is harmaline. Harmaline is an MAOI. And if you think about harmaline, if you're familiar with that name, when you have the ayahuasca vine, you mix it with harmaline.
Oh, yeah.
And that's what allows you to have that experience, so the DMT doesn't metabolize very fast.
Oh, okay.
So imagine you're doing this breath work, and yes, you're producing the DMT, but plus you have this substance in your body, which is allowing it to linger.
Whoa.
So you are having that ayahuasca-like DMT, that Bufo-like experience. Yeah, it's very, very interesting.
Wow. So folks, and I'll put Joe's contact info or anything, because this is big, right? This is, if you do not have the money to do this, first of all, folks, healing, I was going to say healing is free, man. God put this stuff. It is a pretty cool pharmacologist, man. You can grow some mushrooms. You can do some holotropic breath work. I achieved a DMT. I didn't flip like I did Mexico in my exorcism, but it was a state of nothingness and bliss. It was a state of grace. And when I got done with Joe's breathwork thing, I'm like, this is the way. And I say this often on this podcast. I'm like, everything, whether it's Ibogaine, it's not for everybody, right? You can heal in hot yoga. You can go walk on the beach. You can climb to the top of a mountain. You could do some breath work. There are so many modalities to healing. But some of these medicines, man, whether it's a Navy SEAL or a fighter pilot or somebody with a lot of trauma, maybe some radical trauma needs some radical medicine. Not saying this is radical medicine, but you know what I'm saying. It might not call to everyone. So maybe the breath work can help somebody who's like, I ain't drinking some brew or eating root bark, you know?
Absolutely. Breathwork is one of the most powerful tools. And I'll send you Sabine's contact, and you can also work with Joe. Joe's not actually trained fully in the clarity breathwork. So knowing her, I doubt she would offer it as someone who's not trained, just as an ethical source. But we can connect you to Sabine, who spent 10 plus years training in this specific modality, and she would be absolutely more than willing to help you. And anyone who reaches out.
I'd love it. Well, I mean, Joe does a pretty damn good job with what she does, man. So
I mean, both her great grandparents were indigenous Taino people from the Dominican Republic. They were both touch healers or shamans. And so that girl is, if you just look at her, you can see.
She looks like a medicine woman or a healer.
She is. People always ask me, "Are you the shaman?" I'm like, that one over there.
Well, you guys make a pretty good, incredible team. I
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, bro, this is fantastic. What would be what's some good advice? Like somebody sitting here watching this or listening to this, like, I might be hearing it if they said the medicine calls to you, they're hearing it. What would be some good initial next? God takes care of fools, drunks, and sailors. So bases loaded for Whiz. I found, on a dark night of the soul, I walked down to the street to yoga joint. I started hot yoga. One of the hardest workouts of my life. Then that kind of led to breath work and then the medicine. So those two things, I had a pretty cool path. What's Troy's guide to if the medicine's calling? What are some good initial next steps to get your mind, body, and soul maybe aligned towards the call?
Yeah, I think the first thing and probably the most accessible to any of us is nature. Just be outside barefoot, spend time without your cell phone, and get lost on a hike. Just go somewhere for a walk and just don't know where you're going is probably the most powerful thing I could tell anyone to do.
Wow.
In that, that sense of, if you've ever been lost before, you're kind of on alert, right? There's this fear, there's this rush, all your intuitive faculties kind of rise to the surface.
Yeah. And it's new. It's newish. Yeah.
Exactly. And that newish will prepare you for whatever it is you want to do. Because the biggest thing is people like being comfortable, right? They want to just be in their comfort zone. They want to do the same things over and over. That's why they feed us the television and all these things to keep us in the loop. So we're not thinking, and people like you are challenging that. And so just my biggest advice is go out in nature one day, go for a hike somewhere and allow yourself to just fucking get lost. And watch how that feeling comes through your body and experience that freshness of reality of like, oh shit, I don't know where I am and I'm excited. Take that energy and apply it to literally anything you want. And you're going to see it's going to fuel you and drive you forward and forward and forward.
I love that, bro. And I think Anthony has said this a couple times when I've been down there. He's right. Not even have, day 2 or whenever we do the medicine, like just being at Awaken, for example, out in the middle of the forest in Costa Rica, you feel better. That's our natural state. Yeah. It ain't a cell phone. It ain't laptops. It's not me worrying about the stock market. It's not me worried about healing grants. It's peaceful, right? And the sounds of the insects and the howler monkeys and just the wind, and getting back to that nature is just so incredible. And coming from a concrete jungle, it's grounding. So I love the fact that you all let people have a little time there before stepping into the medicine, because even just being there, man, it resets your nervous system.
Yeah, there's a really beautiful book called Earthing. I don't know the author, but it speaks to all the scientific evidence behind what's actually happening when you connect to nature. And for those who are listening who, you might not have direct access to nature, it's important to remember too that you are nature, right? Like you are physically and literally nature.
Cosmic stardust, man. That's what we
exactly. Are. And so if you can't find anything to connect to, even a simple house plan, let's say you don't have anything, you can go into yourself and you are in nature. And so it's just important to remember that nature is everywhere.
Yeah.
It doesn't just stop because we put concrete roads down or build a 50-story building.
Correct. I see.
Yeah.
One last question, man, and then I'll let you go, because it seems to be, I hate saying it's all the rage, but if this is kind of it's almost a little bit of a gateway, maybe God's throwing out to people, microdosing. Here in the States, people it's like the hippest thing, or hey, Whiz, tell me about microdosing. I'm like, and I love that, because if people are looking towards it, like, hey, maybe I'll tiptoe, or I heal it, makes people just feel better. What's your take on microdosing? First of all, what is it, and then what's your overall take on it?
Yeah, it's interesting. We do integration calls as part of Awaken Your Soul's giving back to our community. So we had an integration call last night, which a few of your pilots came on. And the topic last night was microdosing.
Oh, actually. Perfect.
So it's
okay.
Yeah, very, very timely. So what is microdosing? Microdosing is important to remember that the first thing is that a microdose is not meant to be felt. Right? If you're feeling it, it's a macrodose.
It's a macrodose, exactly.
Right? And so I've identified the 9 aspects of microdosing that I feel are important, and I'll just go through those very quickly here. The first one is to do your research. And what is that really saying is, what are you planning on microdosing and why? Right? If you're looking for something like psilocybin, which is going to bind to the 5-HT2A receptor in your brain and work in the frontal cortex, perhaps, do your research and Google, well, what does the frontal cortex have to do with my personality? Right? If you're doing something Iboga that works on many receptors across the brain, look at that and start to actually look and do your homework and start saying, okay, if I'm going to hack this system or I'm going to override certain softwares, what parts of the brain do I need to work with? And start doing it yourself, and you're going to find it's going to help you with your process a lot longer. The second one is have a plan or an intention, right? Why are you doing this?
Yep.
Right? You can do it for therapeutic reasons. Maybe you're someone who's battling with substance addictions and you want this to help you to kind of give yourself an ally. The third one is to start slow. And what that means is sometimes you'll see people say, I took a microdose and I was knocked on my ass for 6 hours. And you say that's not a microdose. So start slow. Maybe start at 0.3 grams. Let's say you work with Iboga. Start with 0.3 grams. If you don't feel it, go up to 0.4. You don't feel it, go up to 0.5. You feel it at 0.5. Okay, your floor.
Throttle back.
You know your ceiling. Exactly. Throttle back. Which, by the way, I just watched the new Top Gun movie. It's fucking awesome. And I thought about you the whole time. Just want to name that.
I love it.
Yeah, you're like the coolest person to me.
Back
so
at
start
you.
slow. The next one is keep a journal. And why is that important? Is because we often don't realize when we change. The people around us notice, like, wow, Whiz has been just fucking amazing since coming back from the clinic. But sometimes we don't even notice.
You don't see it, yeah.
And so keeping a journal will help you to remember not only the insights that come up, but the subtle little changes that take place, which is a beautiful thing to look back at and be like, wow, you know what? Like, I used to use profanity and a lot, and now I haven't cursed, or it doesn't feel good to me. It doesn't feel congruent with who I am.
Yeah.
So keeping a journal is helpful. Next one is a reputable source of the medicine. There's all tons of places you can find it online, but just make sure that you're getting it from a place that's sustainable and ethically harvested, because there's a lot of indigenous communities out there that are being exploited for their medicines, which I know they talked a lot about at the MAPS. And so a reputable source. Number 6 is take breaks. Take breaks in your protocols, however that is. After we get off, I'll send you the Iboga protocol that I send to people, and you'll see there it's some of them are like 5 weeks on and 8 weeks off.
Okay.
right? Some of them are longer breaks. So give yourself breaks in between to integrate the microdosing effects. Number 7 is exercise. You're doing this to help yourself. Well, why not help yourself by physically improving your body as well? And exercise doesn't mean running a marathon, but it could mean doing a push-ups, a few sit-ups, stretching in the morning, but just do something somatically or physically to assist the microdosing itself. Number 8, meditation and mindfulness is what I say is if you can bring a meditation and mindfulness practice into your life, try that. One thing I tell people I work with that's easy, it takes 10 seconds, it takes no time out of your day, is the first thing you do, open your eyes in the morning, smile, even if it's fake, and say out loud, I'm alive. And just allow yourself to be grateful for the fact that you woke up today, because there are millions of people who didn't.
Correct.
Exactly. And there's millions of people who are spending their lives fighting for others like you, who are allowing you to wake up in a peaceful bed with birds chirping. So just smile and say, I'm alive. And you're going to start putting the vibration of gratitude involved inside of your microdosing protocol. And as we know, gratitude is the ultimate state of receivership. So when we're grateful, the universe gives us events to actually be grateful for.
Yes.
And the last one I say to people, and this is probably the most important, is to make a ceremony out of it. Don't just take the microdose and run out of the house, but sit down, center yourself, light a candle, do whatever it is you feel you need to do. Maybe put a cup of glass on an altar, or if you have a picture of a loved one who's passed, put that in front of you, but just make a ceremony out of it. And what you'll start realizing is that ceremony doesn't end when you take the microdose. It's going to extend out to when you walk out of the house. It's going to be a part of your entire life. Next thing you know, you'll be living in ceremony. And for me, I think with microdosing, that's really the benefit overall, is when you start to say, I don't need it.
Yeah.
I don't need this microdose. I don't need Iboga. I don't need psilocybin. I don't need anything. I am the medicine. And that really is the goal for me.
But I see, you just put a bow on it, man. You are the medicine. I am the medicine. And it's interesting because the last time at Awaken Your Soul, a little medicine, and you actually told me that the more you work with the medicine, the less and less you need, to the point where you got it, man. That's my last experience, kind of God, source, truth, divine, whatever word you want to insert, kind of gave me you're good. You got it. And go forth and put the ladder down, bro. Thank you so much for taking the time. I have to have you back. I guarantee I'm going to get a ton of email. The Soul Integrator on Instagram, folks. Please follow this. He's just an incredible dude, as you can tell. He's a healer, great guy. Like I said, his beautiful life partner Joe, and then Anthony down there at Awaken Your Soul. Reach out to these folks. If you're interested, you hear the medicine calling, or if you know of a loved one or a friend who, hey, they could maybe use a little help. Folks, the world would be a much better place if it will. Let's be positive. It will be a much better place when this stuff that's been around for thousands and thousands of years is legal in the United States, is available to all. And, whether it's veterans and this, I mentioned this to somebody up in DC, and they're like, yeah, don't probably mention that again. I'm like, you want to lower crime in this country, or the rates of recidivism? Criminals, before a guy gets out of prison or on parole, show them who they truly are, man. Take the shit off of them and show them that they are a soul. And I guarantee you the crime rate in this country would go wrong. They're like, let's start with veterans, dude. Ditch the criminal talk. I'm like, hey, man, fucking Pope went and sat with the guy that shot him and forgave him. So, you quoted Matthew, that you do to the least of my brothers, you do unto me. Yeah, Basi. So Troy, thank you, my brother. I love you, man. I'll be down. We'll see you again soon. We're gearing up for another retreat, because I miss coming down there. I miss you guys. I miss laying under the stars around that fire, and our tribe, our medicine tribe. So I love you, man. Thank you, my brother.
Yes, sir.
And like I said, the Soul Integrator. All right, folks, I'm out. Have a great rest of your day. Happy hunting. Make sure you hedge. Fights on. Basi, and God bless. I'll talk to you guys next time.